welcome to the Mother Days. I'm Teresa Palmer.
And I'm Sarah Wright Olsen. And we are so excited to have our amazing guests on the show today. We have Angi and Arlynd Fletcher on the show today, and their beautiful 4-month-old baby.
This gorgeous baby that I've been staring at. He has the most beautiful lips and gorgeous big eyes.
I mean, I can't.
I may not have a beer by the time we're done this conversation.
That's true. He seems to be very excited about that beard. Well, Angi has her amazing company, Mamoosh, and Arlynd has his amazing company, Hard to Kill. And I've been following you guys for the last couple of years. And I have to say, you are part of the reason why my life has changed. I don't know if you know that, but I started getting up in the mornings before the sun to work out with my husband because of you. You had a video on Instagram and you were like, this is what I do. And it was like this beautiful video where you were like walking to your outdoor gym, which by the way, we don't have. We have like a garage we work out in together. But you were walking to this beautiful outdoor gym, talking about like working out with your partner in the morning. The kids come out and find you there. And I was like, why have I never thought about this? I'm always trying to fit in a workout instead of like making it a part of my life and like having it to do, like doing it with my partner. And it was a year ago this month that we started doing this, and we do it every single day. And it's because of you.
Yes. That was the only time we did it.
Yeah.
That was the one time, and you documented it.
No, that's all we need to know. That's all we need to know.
Oh my God.
I mean, I actually like audibly gasped when you did the, you had a video where you were doing pull-ups and then I could like see your belly. And I was like, oh my God, you're pregnant. I was just so cool. And so anyway, I'm a fan. I love your story. I love everything. I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Our pleasure. We're so excited too. Anytime anyone wants to talk about birth or relationships or working out, I'm like, name the time and place and I'll be there.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So tell us about like your family. Who's in your family? How did you guys meet? Like I want to hear the full backstory because I know there's been peaks and valleys and you have such a unique story. I'd love you guys to share that with everyone.
So our story is probably, yes, very unique. We met when I was 18 and I started modeling in Germany, and we met on a train station platform in Germany. Because my mother told my agent that the only way she would send me to Germany is if I always had someone with me. This was like back in the day before cell phones, way before.
Yeah, of course.
I sent my mom a fax when I got to Hamburg.
Yes.
I love it.
So our agent back home had told him, who he was stationed in Munich at the time, told him to come pick me up as like a concierge or whatever service,
chaperone. Oh my God.
And just like help me, just help me, be with me around the city that night because I was taking a train out to Switzerland the next morning anyway. So he already had a girlfriend at the time, and I just knew he was like this great guy I had heard. And so I felt super safe. So we were like walking around Munich arm in arm, went to this restaurant, Wolkenlos, which means cloudless. And had like totally hit it off as great friends. Cut to, I was a bridesmaid in his wedding because
oh my gosh,
I was a very good friend of theirs, of him and his wife. I got married 2 years later. He was a groomsman in our wedding because we stayed very friends. We both lived in New York at the time, so we lived probably like 2 blocks away from each other with our significant others in New York for about 7 years. I had our firstborn child, my firstborn child, not ours. Then we moved to LA, and it was again this was in the time like where cell phones were the ones where to press A, you had to do like 111, and then B.
We're so old.
No, I remember like the Samsung, like 9110 or whatever.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm trying to get a sense of really how long we've been together.
Yeah, this timeline. Exactly. I love that.
Anyway, so we stayed friends, but of course it wasn't like how we would do today, like FaceTime or whatever. I got to Los Angeles shortly thereafter, got separated from my husband. He was living in Miami at the time with his wife. They were going through a separation. We didn't know really like the ins and outs because we weren't in contact that much. But him and his wife moved to Los Angeles. They separated. I was already divorced. We got back in contact just by phone. I was already doing triathlon because basically I had hit rock bottom after my divorce. Drinking, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, wouldn't leave the house during the day other than just to drive my son to school and come back and like drink some more in a really dark place. And the only person I knew that was like non-judgmental or kind of outside of my friend group, because I had social anxiety, I couldn't even be with my friends. I would call him and he would just kind of coach me through some stuff with triathlon. And so basically triathlon and him saved my life because I was so low. I ended up in the hospital, like in very, very dark, low places. And what happened is during his separation, I was already divorced. He then started coaching me in triathlon. So he taught me how to swim, taught me how to ride my bike, and taught me how to run. And it, like, not being dramatic, it saved my life because it took me from the therapist's couch, which I couldn't afford anymore, and put me on a bike. And that type of mental training, along with physical training, but the mental training really completely saved my life and put me on this path that introduced you, Sarah, to me through being able to share on the Instagram platform of what saved my life. And it's all I do. All I do every day is just share my message because it was such a mess, turned into a message because of this guy. And now we're living in Texas.
You have how many kids? You have 4 kids, right?
Well, I have my firstborn, and then we have 3 together.
Oh, I mean, come on. That's the dream.
Oh my God.
For 28 years. We've been married now for 10.
Jesus.
But,
Wow.
you know, I basically grew up with him because I was a kid. I was 18.
Aww.
And like, not an 18-year-old nowadays, like an 18-year-old back before social media. So I was a baby.
Yeah. It's different. It's so different. All my favorite people moved to Texas. Like, so many of my good friends were like, hey, we're all moving to Austin together. I was like, okay, bye. I visit there all the time. It's such an amazing place.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
I know. So that's our story. And what's cool, like in between that as well, if we're just talking about babies and birthing, so now your podcast is called The Mother Days, we had 3 different births together. So our first birth was a cesarean, and I was so humbled by the cesarean process because I had my firstborn in a birthing center in New York. My mom had all 4 of us at home. All I knew was home birthing was my identity. I was obsessed with it. I was an advocate. So me having a C-section was just like my ego was annihilated because it was the last on earth that I wanted to do. I remember my best friend, Erin, who you guys know, Olsen, had 3 C-sections. And at her first C-section, I bawled because I was like,
oh my God.
Not even birth. This is terrifying. How's the baby to survive without skin to skin? Like, I was so judgmental and so heartbroken that I was experiencing the C-section. And then I was like, oh, never mind. I'm going through one myself.
And how did that come about for you? Was it sort of, did you have to have an emergency cesarean? Was there a complication, placenta previa? Was there something like that?
It was placenta previa.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an interesting situation now looking back on it because I was given the whatever diagnosis or whatever it's called of placenta previa at 20 weeks, which is usually when you find out. But now that I know what I didn't know, but now you're not supposed to say that you have placenta previa at 20 weeks. Because the placenta moves.
It can pull away.
Yeah, like when you blow up a balloon, whatever. So, but what was significant about this birth is my mom died and I got pregnant right after. So right after we got married, my mom passed away. And it was a big one, not only because she was my mom, but because my dad had passed away as well. So I don't have grandparents or parents. She was kind of the last one that died, kind of making me the matriarch. So it was just like a interesting time.
Transitional period.
I was in this big grieving time while I was pregnant. And when I was told that I had placenta previa, it was such a shock to me and such a mental shift that I had to make, because for me, it meant another like separation from my mom, because home birthing was my connection to my mom. So having to have a C-section without my mom, it was almost like I felt this weird disconnection from her, or like disappointment or whatever. So I had to make such a shift into having that C-section that basically I kept on having appointments to see if it would change. And I was with Dr. Crane, who's an amazing
doctor. God, we love Dr. Crane.
Yeah. He delivered my first son.
Oh, amazing.
I'm so glad you had Dr. Crane. He was like my saving grace, because I had to have a home birth transfer. And he was like everything at the hospital.
Yeah.
Everyone is so legendary.
The man.
He's the man.
Yes.
That's why I went with him, because I was like, well, I need someone that knows that I don't want a C-section. Like I want the most natural, like he was the one that basically went in. I don't know if I can say this, but probably can. Right before I went in, and he went and did the swab so that Arlynd could take the bacteria and put it all over the baby. Like, so incredible. He's so hands off, yet hands on.
Yeah.
That's how you get a great gut biome.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So he knew all the things. He knew that when I came in, he would just look at me and be like, so you want this, right? And I was like, for sure, write me down.
Amazing.
So like, just so of what I wanted, and so amazing. So I didn't know until I looked back on video, this is how like in a grieving state that I was. But the video showed we were in his office. I was 39 weeks because I wanted to like not do the 37-week C-section. So I was like, let me go as long as I can. And he basically, did the scan. He's like, well, you're clear. You're good. That the placenta has moved out of the way. And I was like,
oh my God.
Nope, can't change my mind now.
Whoa.
I went through with the C-section, even though it was moved away, because in my mind, I couldn't mentally.
Yeah.
And I couldn't mentally shift.
And you would have only had like a couple of days to pivot and switch gears and try and get in the headspace. And
when you've put yourself in that place, like it's so hard to move out of that.
Exactly. Preparation is everything. And so I had my like validation redemption Vbac with my daughter 15 months later.
15 months later. Oh my God. Back to back.
Yeah. And because we couldn't have a midwife, because you're not allowed to, by law, have a midwife for a Vbac under 18 months. I went to Dr. Crane. Was like, hey, would you be there to deliver the baby, even though like I don't want you there? And it was like, totally, we can do like a home birth in the hospital, but I have to have you in the hospital for him. And so we had the most incredible, in my mind, I'll let him share. I want him to share his experience with the 3 different births, because it's so different from his point of view.
Yes, I'm sure.
Everything and make it like amazing. And he was like, it was terrible. Not terrible.
It was not terrible.
It's different, right? From a man's point of view.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just get through the Vbac. The Vbac was incredible because I labored at a friend's house in Beverly Hills, just right outside of Cedars. It was like outside, just everything how I wanted. And we shifted, moved to the hospital. I think Dr. Crane was like sleeping in the back room.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And had an incredible Vbac, unmedicated, and like exactly how I would have wanted it at home, but in the hospital. And then our third one, this one, we had him here on the ranch.
Oh my gosh.
Can't wait to hear that whole story.
And I can't wait to hear your perspective. I know I think it's hard. I hear a lot of the times that the partners feel like really like, how hands-on should I be? Should I step back? It's happening to this person. Like, how can I be of service? And I think this is just going to be really like educational for people, especially, you know, those first time mums listening who are pregnant and their partners are feeling a little bit out of touch. Like, I can't wait to hear how you got involved and just sort of surrendered to the process, because obviously all three of them were so radically different.
And we were in different seasons too, which is so interesting, because again, like a little bit more of the backstory too of, I'm a completely different person than who I was when we met. I was a baby, not opinionated, very, very insecure. And basically because of him giving me the confidence that he has, I'm now who I am. And because of him, it's almost like he created a monster. Now I'm like this confident, like businesswoman.
Oh my God, I love it.
I love it.
So yeah, basically him being through 3 different births with me in 3 different seasons of my life also is so different, because I needed him in different ways, which is the classic thing, right? The guys are like, I don't know what you need.
I don't know what you need.
Like in season. And I'm like, but I think I was able to articulate it this last birth.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you did. But it's also because when you have more than one opportunity to go through something, usually you gain things in the first, in the second. Obviously, that's her 4th birth. So there's so much of what you're expecting. I mean, even though her births were all very different, you still are going through a process of surrendering, right? I think for a woman, you know, I could probably wrap up most of what I would say if a guy is listening to this is don't try and figure it out. Just be there, right? And be somebody who pays attention to not like an equation that's being figured out to what do I have to give? What do I have to do? What are the steps to this? It's just be there. And when there's a need, meet the need, right? As opposed to, no, this is the step we're supposed to be in now. This is the way it's supposed to go. Every birth can be different. They can all be similar birth processes, but where is mom in that process? Where is baby in that process? So it changes what the process actually is, what the needs are in the process. And I think that for me, if I had any one thing to give to a father, for absolutely the first time father, but with anybody who's going through a birth, treat it as a gift that it's something unique and special, and a way that you will see your partner go through something that you will never understand, that we will never, as men, be able to really wrap our heads around. And I think that's why it's very uncomfortable for a lot of men, because you don't know what to do with it. It's big, right? It's emotional. I think a lot of guys go through stress because you want to, as a man, fix it. Like, how do I make this uncomfortable discomfort go away? Well, you can't. It's part of the process, right? It's not in your control, and you can't say anything that will make it go away. You can't position yourself that maybe you learned in a class that this is going to help. In this moment, no, it's not. It technically might, but nobody's making you feel like, Dad, oh, you killed that. You did exactly what you did. It's not going to go that way. You're not going to have recognition. Just be present, be there, and listen and watch.
Yes, that's such good advice.
Because from 30 seconds on this side to 30 seconds here, it might be a full different script that you're trying to, you know, what do I do in this season?
Well,
this part.
Case in point. So for this last home birth, I was definitely very prepared because I had so much against me. I'm basically 1 foot in the grave because I'm 45, right? So I'm told every day, it's high risk. How dare I try and have a baby at home? So I was like, okay, so I'm going to do my dream plan. So I told him, I was like, so this is my dream plan. I'll be laboring at home. I'll be baking cookies. I'll be distracting myself. You'll be with the kids. You'll come check on me. Like, I literally had this whole thing. And then I was like, and then maybe like while I'm laboring, like if you could take some video, because we didn't want a videographer, like we didn't want anybody here. So if you could just come in, like take some video and then make sure that like I always have my water bottle with my stuff. And then also remind me to relax my jaw, open mouth, open vagina.
Right. That's a lot of list.
Everything. So I gave him like this thing of like just encouraging him to know what to do. Right. And so we went through the whole thing, and he was just a freaking rock star, literally taking care of the kids, coming in, videoing me, like talking to the baby, videoing himself talking to the baby, like.
Aww.
But then the one time, because I didn't know how far along I was. I never had a cervical check. I just really wanted to like figure it out and be in tune with my body. So I had no idea how really close I was. And so I came out of the bathroom. I had this massive contraction on the toilet. And then I came out and was at the end of the bed, and I was like curled over, and I was like this, and I was about to have a contraction, and he was on his knees in front of me, and he goes, "Okay, I'm going to need you to relax." And I was like, "No."
Oh my gosh. Hilarious.
Exactly. You're like, but wait, you told me to say that.
And I was like, "No." And that was like in 2 pushes, he was out.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, no wonder you said no.
Yes. You're like, literally leave me right now.
I know. I'm like, that's,
oh my God.
No. So how was he supposed to know? Because I didn't really, know. But then, yeah, he was holding me as I had my hand on his head, trying to hold him in for the last contraction so I could breathe him out. So he was holding me up as I was pushing him out, like into my hand. And Arlynd was holding me so that I didn't like sit back and like sit on the baby.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
How was that? Did it feel so powerful? Like, tell me what you felt in that moment when you were like holding on to her like that.
Oh, I thought you were talking to her.
Well, both of you, but I'm just like, I want to hear, like, I was picturing it going like, what a special thing to get to experience, because you like wouldn't get to do that at the hospital.
Totally.
No,
totally.
And I'll answer it maybe in a different way than you're anticipating and answer that question. I look at each birth as like its own movie almost, right? And the first one you heard, she was literally strapped down. I mean, a C-section is interesting to be a part of, if I can say I was a part of it, but I was with her, and I was with Alakai, and going through that process and watching the different kind of surrender, right? For her to be arms attached to the boards beside her, laying on the table, and the opposite of what she would have wanted. But watching her surrender, it allowed me to just be with her and just make sure I was able to do what I could for her. It's not about me in that moment, but it's my first child as well. So it's absolutely about me. It's absolutely about that anticipation and excitement, but it's everything at that moment is about mom and baby. So for me, it was most important to just make sure she knew I was there. And we were literally like this and each other. And that was the most important thing I could do, because what else am I going to do? But it forced me to be present with her here, not so much holding her, not doing things that you want to find a way to help. So it quietened everything for me and locked me into this place of just listen and be present with her in that moment, because she needs you to be with her, not what do I need to do? So that was the first birthing experience. The second one was similar, because it started with being able to make sure, like, where is she? Right now we're in a birthing center. She's not strapped down. She's able to move around. But the whole story of that movie, of that birth, was an amazing journey of watching her be able to take back kind of the control of moving and breathing and knowing what she was feeling. And that was, for me, just a crazy experience of watching her in that place. So the first one was very much watching her surrender, which was really emotional for me, because I knew how much she wanted to have a natural birth. So going through that was, I didn't expect to have the amount of appreciation and love and just admiration for her in that process of surrender. and going through what she was doing. She's giving me my firstborn. So it was very emotional for me. The second one was watching her be able to do something, not just full surrender, but there's still that surrender that has to happen for you to have a baby, right? So watching her go through that transition of it is controlling it, but you still have to go through the letting go and the motions, and watching her go through that, it was a whole different level of love and appreciation of like, this is insane to watch somebody go through this. Seeing her through that lens, this last one, it was a joke of what I watched her do. Like part of me was like, I could have gone and done something probably and come back and be like, amazing, you had a baby, like,
oh my gosh.
What she did in the day, it was a joke because what she said she wanted was exactly how it happened.
Oh my gosh. And how long was the birth?
Well, I don't know how long I was in labor for, because I had contractions for days previously. But as you know, with your subsequent pregnancies, you're like, got to make mac and cheese for the kids. Having a contraction, so like life still goes on. Oh my
god!
The first one rocks your world, but then with more kids, you're like, got to quickly cut their nails, got to do this. So I had gone into active labor, like where you can't speak through them. I was on the phone with my older son, Oliver, and I knew, because I was having a contraction, I had to pass the phone off to Arlynd. So that was a cue that I was like, they're getting a little bit more serious. I passed the phone to Arlynd. I came inside and I started timing them just for myself. So I was literally making the kids mac and cheese. And then I had a contraction. I was like, so they're about 5 minutes apart. Okay, so I'll have my 45-second contraction. Then I'll have 3 minutes to empty the dishwasher.
Not kidding.
I'll have another 3.
Oh my gosh.
They called Arlynd and I was like, babe, maybe we should put some sheets on the bed. I have about 3 minutes.
Oh my God.
And so I was like timing them, knowing just what I can get done.
Yes.
Time. So that was at 6 o'clock.
That is such a mom.
Right. And then that was at 6 o'clock. And then I had him at, I think, 9:30.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very
precipitous birth. Very fast.
It was, again, with my firstborn, I would have said, I labored for 36 days.
Yes.
No, I totally know what you mean.
It's that premordial labor. I actually love it when I have it, and it's that stop-start over days, because I'm like, I know by the time like active labor starts, I'm probably going to be like 4 or 5 centimeters already. Like, this is great. Yeah, even though it's frustrating because you're like, is it today? Like, you ring the birth team, like, ooh, but then it just continues on. That happened for my middle 2, and I had such fast births. It was amazing.
And that like moment that you're describing, Angie, at the end, like when he's holding you and you're like bearing down, and the fact that you were able to, and Teresa does this too. I do not know how you guys do this. I haven't accomplished it yet, but being able to like pause out to like breathe the baby down is so amazing. I mean, did you just feel like animalistic? Like you were just so powerful in that moment? Like, I want to hear what was anything going through? Do you remember it vividly, or was it like?
Oh yeah. No, I totally remember it. I didn't with my first, because it was my first. I was so young. Yeah. And I just did everything opposite to what I did now. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I was scared, like so many different things. So then 20 years later, I feel like with experience and with wisdom and with, just being more intuitive, I was able to really, really stay connected. So I knew it was when I came out of the bathroom, right, that I felt him like shrunk down.
Yeah.
I love that feeling.
Right? A very interesting thing that I didn't know about, because I hadn't heard it being talked about before with the Vbac, is that cesarean scar, it still is 7 layers deep, right? So that scar, as much as it's healed, it still is very deep. So the amount of pain that I had to overcome with the Vbac was the same as this, but I knew it because the contractions are different. With a Vbac, not only do you have the discomfort if you don't like the word pain, not only do you have the discomfort of the contraction, but that scar is also like contracting and, for lack of a better word, feels like ripping. So it's a very, very
I've heard that
pain at that place,
a deep level.
It's like it mentally. If you don't know it mentally, my midwife even said a lot of Vbacs take a lot longer because of the mental connection, where there's so much searing pain at that mark that it doesn't allow your body to release the baby down into that birth canal because it's so painful.
Wow. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I actually don't think I've heard people talk about this specifically.
I didn't either. And I might be the only one. I don't know. I can't imagine that I am. But so it's like, it's the whole contraction, that like dull ache pain that you have as a normal contraction. But then there's like someone has a knife. Maybe people don't talk about this because it really doesn't sound that great.
Yeah, wow.
But I think it's so
even
cool.
more respect to the
to like share
there.
that, because I know it's so important for so many people who like want to have a VBAC and then they do it and they feel so. I mean, I've empowered after.
Yeah, I wish I knew. Honestly, I wish I knew, because mentally you have to go through knowing that it's going to be very uncomfortable anyway. You know, you breathe into the pain, you do whatever you do with pain and discomfort. But I wish that I knew the next level of the combination of the two types of pain mentally. So with him, I knew that I would have that discomfort. So I was able to move instead of like locking up. And I was able to move, and especially in my hips, almost visually, like allow him, like literally talk to him and say, it's okay. You can move past that scar. Like you can move past that. But there is like, that's again, what my midwife was talking about, that you can be 3 centimeters dilated to 10 centimeters within a few minutes, because your body then is able to open up and have them come down past that C-section scar. And so once I had that really, really, really the heightened discomfort contraction in the toilet, or I wasn't in the toilet, in the bathroom, on the toilet, then I knew, oh, this is probably when he was going past that scar, because it was so intense. Wow. And it like takes you to another just world where you either, it's that combination of animalistic, like you said, it's that combination of the most powerful, like, you know, out in the jungle, hanging onto a tree, squatting your baby out, mixed with surrender. Because to surrender. And it's the most incredible, interesting feeling, that duality of forces, of the most surrender you'll ever do, along with the most like earthy grounding. It was part of what I told Arlynd that I wanted this birth. I was like, I just want to be naked on our ranch, leaning onto the earth. And he was like,
easy. He was like, hot.
Wow.
That's hot.
Yeah, it is so hot. I'm like, yes, like, girl. I want
wearing a Mamoosh bra.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Wearing nothing but Mamoosh.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know if that's a question, but yes, it felt very animalistic and very powerful, and something that I'm very passionate about sharing, probably not as publicly as some people would, but privately I share about how incredibly powerful it is and how that power has been taken away from us.
Really the limiting factor when you're looking at it through a mom's eyes, fear is the greatest debilitator, right? Yeah. And fear is going to be there until there's more understanding around what the fear is based on, right? And I think that's a huge, if I give Angie just massive props, the amount that she spent time and understanding in each birth, what is this process because of what kind of pregnancy I'm having and what may be issues or what's great about this pregnancy, but still understanding that process. So then giving herself the best opportunity to move through a fearful process, because each one was different. For both of us, each birth was a whole different experience. It wasn't, we've been through it. Each one was different. The end result was we have amazing kids, but each process of that happening was very different. So you didn't get used to the process. But fear is attached to something you don't know, right? First and foremost, that's where fear is going to show up the most. So doing your best to understand where you are and what is that fear based on, just giving yourself a chance of understanding drops down the fear aspect. So when we're talking about this process of a Vbac and going through that scar area with Ocean, put yourself in any mom's position.
I love that name so much.
Yeah, the hitting that scar point, and this goes down a different lane that it won't go down a whole lot, but the fascial system is like a nervous system, right? So when that has been and healed, signals are different, and maybe thankfully a lot more people are understanding our fascial system works like a neurological system. If you don't know that, take some comfort in it when you're a mom that is going through a Vbac or has gone through a Vbac, and why the heck did that hurt so much? Because the way that system is transmitting messaging, okay?
Yes.
When there's the sensation of pain, fear is like this, right? Everything now has resistance. So all the normal processes that you would be surrendering to, breathing through, is basically like, hell no, like that is not.
Yes, that's right.
This is not comfortable. There's got to be something wrong. Shut down all the systems, right? So that's what happened with Ocean. But because Angie, I was walking her through some of that. Dr. Crane was walking her through some of that. She went through the process of then understanding, okay, yeah, this is not fun right now. It hurts. But now I'm understanding what's going on. Now I will have that go through.
On like a cellular level. That's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. And with Aquila, it was very different. There wasn't the fear around it. It was an understanding that would be there. So it's like the first time you've been on any road. It feels long the first time. The second or third time, you're like, yeah, I've been here before. It's fine. It's that's what that path looked like. It was much more direct to getting him through that channel, because she was able to just say, yeah, I understand why that's a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to let that happen. And subconsciously and consciously, you're making a choice to say, I will do my part in breathing and allowing the body to go through its natural motions to have that baby drop. So each one of those was a different process. All of them have fear. And I think, we touched on, actually, Sarah, you touched on it, working out together. One of the things you might have seen is cold plunging.
Yeah.
We have one. Obsessed.
So a lot of people are waking up to the fact that does some good things if it's done in the right way.
Yeah.
But if you simplify, what is it actually doing in this context of this conversation? Well, it's allowing you to go through something that your brain at first says, you're insane. This is not good.
Yeah.
But you make a choice to say, no, I hear you, but we're going to go through this because of what is on the other side, right? You're going through a birth in that process. And when you go through the discomfort and you exit that cold plunge, you literally feel it's maybe one of the little tastes that a man can be like, okay, I get 0.5% of what mom feels like when she has that baby. Because you've gone through something that you first don't want to, just like when contractions happen, when things are starting to move for mom, it's like, I can't stop this process right now. And I'm freaked out because I know where this is going. It's a little like stepping in the cold plunge. And I hope mom's getting mad at me, but like, you have no idea. I'm just saying.
No, you're trying to give, no, I totally get what you're saying. You're trying to give an example of like that moment where you're doing something that your body's telling you like, no, like this is so intense, because I've cold plunged and I had that experience. You're like breathing heavy. You're trying to fight it. You're fighting the fear. And then you finally give in and surrender. You're able to breathe, calm your system down. Like you're good. You get out and you've never felt better. Like, I so get what you mean by all of that.
Yeah. And what was happening in the process when you were saying, I can't do this. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. I need to get out. You didn't. You were in it and you were actually doing it. The entire time you were saying, this is horrible, this is not comfortable, and I think I need to get out, you were still in it. You were still doing it.
It is such a mental game. It really is. Like, I remember being in transition with my last baby. Like, I kept hearing the voice being like, this is too much. She should be here now. Like, why isn't she here? Is everything okay? I kept being like, I think I have a cervical lip. All these reasons why she wasn't descending. And it was so hard to battle with my mind because I also hadn't slept for 2 days because I was excited. And I was like, oh my God, that was the hardest part for me, was like getting back in and breathing and coming back to a place of surrender rather than the overthought.
The whole fear thing and how that's been used for centuries for control. So for me, cold plunging was something that also completely changed my life. We were doing it 7 years ago, a long time ago. What I needed it for part of my mental therapy, because the whole fear thing, and I think I loved how he described it, where I still felt the pain. I still felt the fear, because it is an unknown. Birth is the greatest unknown. You can have your perfect birth plan and it go the opposite of what you planned, because we can't plan birth. That's what's so beautiful and supernatural about it, right? So you can plan as much as you can plan. You can control as much as you can control, but it's the most uncontrollable place that you will be in your life. But just like how that TED talk with, is it Amy Cubby, about like changing your state and changing your mindset. The same thing with birth is I felt the fear, but what made it different with him is almost like when you're at an audition and you're like super nervous, but you can either be super nervous, scared, or you can be super nervous, like turn it into confidence.
Excited and loud.
Yeah.
It's like laughter, tears, like the same emotional wavelength.
Yes.
Totally.
The fear,
like adrenaline.
I just changed it like I did in the cold plunge for years and years and years. This is a training that you do, right? You don't just, all of a sudden make up your mind. No, this is training. And I trained myself that any time that I felt fear with him, I spoke to myself like a crazy person. Like you were saying, Teresa, or you were like, like you have your brain
head back in the game,
right? And they're both talking to each other like,
and it is very real.
And they're both,
yes.
But you're in control of what you are saying to yourself. There's always a subconscious crazy person in there, but you're the one that's constantly reframing that and saying it's unknown and I'm so uncomfortable, but I'm in it. And like you can,
totally.
Instead of the insecurity, because those two things are in your control.
Yeah.
And that's what I did differently with him, where I was like, I'm going to feel pain and
it's going to be awesome.
It doesn't come without a training. And I'm going to, blow up her ego more right now. But she went through every process when she told you a bit of our story. Every process I've been through with Angi has been a process of I can't and I'm not going to then being in a position of saying, well, on a bike, for example, you're on a climb. You could quit, but you're going to stay here on the side of it. Or you can do what Teresa, you were saying, right? Your self-talk is saying, I can't. Well, you're still moving. So technically you are. Even if you say you can't, you are, right? And when you finally get through the process that you have convinced yourself that there's no way you can do this, something happens. And that's one of my favorite parts of being able to work with people and watch something that is an I can't turn into an I can. Because it's not just that one event. It's not that one thing they did. All of a sudden, it's expansion of what can I do? If I said this was impossible or I couldn't, and now I just did, it's almost scary because you realize you can do anything.
Yes.
With no limitations. And that's what watching her in this last birth.
That's what they want to take away from us.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right. Listening to you, I'm thinking about how your different births, your like different seasons of your life too. I feel like you needed different things at those different births. Like in my births like were different seasons of my life. Like I lost my dad right before I gave birth to my second child. For that birth, I had to call in every contraction. I wanted it to be joy. So like, I was a crazy person in that birthing room that was just like, yes, you know, like with every contraction, I was like, the nurses were like tiptoeing backwards out of the room. Like, who is this crazy lady?
Having orgasmic birth.
Wow, are we really going to experience this at Cedars-Sinai? But yeah. And then, you know, with my last one, it was like 2020 in a hospital, like, you know, birth. And I was having a natural birth there. And I needed something so different because I was afraid. Like there was a lot of fear surrounding COVID and all of that stuff. And so
she went through a lot of fear. During
and it was like your different season, different birth. Like you're talking about all the different parts of it. But I hear like for your story, it's almost like you needed different things. You needed to accomplish different things in each one of those births and overcome something. But like, it's amazing. And you're like a birthing motivational speaker, Arlynd. Like, I feel like we need to, like,
I'm like, you and Mark need to get together and freaking like be man doulas together. Like, maybe I'll come birth on the ranch. I'll be like, woo, guys, I'm coming. Wow. Sarah and I have always said, like, our dream is to have the farm sanctuary, like Anime Gaskin, like have our own land.
Holding hands in the lake.
Kumbaya. Oh my gosh. The commune life, like with just women birthing.
I am there. Like I think we're lucky that I'm not 10 years younger because I would be like, give me all the babies. Like,
I cannot stop.
But you're 45 and you just had the fourth baby, not last baby, but fourth baby. I mean, that is so awesome. I feel like a lot of times we're told so many things in our, like, I'm 40, I want to have another baby. Like, and
I was geriatric with my last 3 babies.
So ridiculous.
38
oh my God.
And 45.
Wow.
Oh my God. Well, we'd be officially geriatric now.
Let me ask you a question. What's the limiting factor? Why is that considered maybe questionable, right? That's a legit question. But why do people have that in their minds? Why is that something that is...
Because it's been told.
It's like society's banged it over our heads. Like, women can't give birth when they're in their mid-40s.
But you're like best pregnancy, wasn't it this one? Like your most like healthiest and everything pregnancy. I mean, I've watched you like talk about it like at 45.
I felt the greatest, and postpartum, by far my best postpartum.
Wow, that's such an inspiration.
Unbelievable. So inspirational.
And this one.
Look at this guy. Look at this perfect little cherub who was born into all this love and inspiration. Like, pick the dream team, he did.
Closer.
Oh my goodness. Hello.
I can't.
We have this little baby's face looking at us, and he's just a personification of perfect.
I cannot.
Oh, look at the belly.
What a nugget.
Oh my goodness. What a nut. You guys are so great. I love you. And because all my friends live out in Texas now, and Mark and I always want to just take RV trips to Texas.
Going to come visit you.
I'm going to come to the ranch. Hopefully you have some hookups for an RV, and I'll come and say hi.
You need to be in your birthing process, though, to come.
Yeah,
perfect. Okay, so that you can like motivationally get her there.
Okay, done.
Amazing. Well, can you guys please tell us where we can find Hard to Kill and Mamoosh and you guys, so that all of our listeners can find you?
Yes, you won't find him because he is underground.
I tried finding him and I couldn't. So I know I tried.
Not on the gram.
Not on the gram.
On socials.
On the gram. Well, he is, but that's just because we have to have a landing place for Hard to Kill. But he's, yeah. Well, our you can put it in the notes. It's hardtokill.com. So HRD. And then tokill.com. So he has a website for that. And then I have a website for Mamoosh and also an Instagram. I'm Angie Green on Instagram because I couldn't change it after I got married. I couldn't change it to Angie Fletcher because there was so many people already on the gram. So it would have had to be like Angie Fletcher _7000.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
No, I know.
nice.
So I kept Angie Green as Angie Green. And then I have a Mamoosh website as well. And
You have these amazing tinctures,
we have some hormone optimizing tinctures that are really fun.
libido stuff that I was like, ooh, this is great. I don't need any libido stuff right now, but
Sarah's
my libido is
in it to win it right now. Making them babies.
Libido on fire. But
Sarah, maybe you should stay away from the tincture. Let's say that.
the tincture will mez you up.
Maybe I need a. Mark would be really excited to be like, wow,
Mark would love
girl.
a tincture.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I love all of your stuff. It's amazing. And then your Hard to Kill, I was reading that your chai sells out all the time. Like what do you call it? Your chaga chai? How do you say it?
Chaga chai. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thankfully, for us,
The goal is not selling out.
Yeah.
That's not
integrity across the board for us is obviously it's a big thing. And with product, we didn't want to just make product, like just to have product.
Yeah.
On both sides, it kind of ties back to even this conversation when it comes to fear and overcoming fear. So the whole Hard to Kill brand obviously has a backstory. It's longer than we'll take today, but
we'll have to have you back so you can tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, it was a dude's brand to begin with.
Yeah.
And it was in a season where I saw a lot of men shy away from living their life because of multiple things. First of all, being a toxic male, possibly, or the fear of being a toxic male. So do I open the door for a woman, or is that offensive now? Like just so many things that they didn't know how to actually just be a man. Like, what does that even mean anymore? And moving through the process of COVID and having a lot of things that were shifted, if not taken away. And I just saw a lot of guys basically like ducking under, have the storm blow over, and hopefully somebody would come fix it. And there were guys that I knew. And for me, I was like, that's not living life. You're here for a reason. This is your life to live. This is, if you're a dad, be a dad. Don't wait to get back to life. It's important to be a dad right now. It's important to be a husband right now. It's important to be whatever partner you are in whatever partnership you're in. And it was a dude thing. But instantly when we saw Mama Bear start showing up in that season and seeing the mother community be as strong, in a lot of ways, me looking at it going, I wish dudes were being like that. I wish they were having more full abandon and saying, this is what I'm going to stand for. And this is the life that I'm going to create, regardless of all of these challenges that we're faced with.
Like during the 2020 season, if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And watching Angie's community, but watching just people we knew, it instantly was apparent to us, this is not a dude brand. This is a people brand. And it is about resilience. It's about living the life that you've been given to live in whatever role you have, because you're here for a reason. And don't wait for life to change and get better. Live your life now. Don't wait. Do it now. How many days do you have left on this planet, right? Do you want to live the life you've been given, or do you want to wait till things are easier, better, incomes change, circumstances are different? Just don't wait. Do it. So the products that are attached to that are essentially tools to help you do that, right? So tools to build,
tools
first
to
and
make
foremost,
you harder to kill.
Yeah, to resilience, and health on all areas. So that's kind of the foundation of Hard to Kill, and our passion in that lane is watching people overcome. Watching people actually go from fear and go through that process that Angie went through in that last birth of me there supporting, but it was her process saying, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to actually embrace that and now, go through it. And on the other side of it, literally, like, I just did that. That's what Hard to Kill is about, that feeling, right? It's about,
oh my God,
you went through something that maybe somebody said you can't, maybe a government says you can't, maybe a regulatory agency. There's so many things in today's world that will probably come against you to say you can't. And our passion is to say, well, what if you could? And what can we do to support you in that journey now regain resilience and overcome. Now, what are you going to do with that life you've been given? Right? You just see
my gosh.
Thrive and see people, get wind under
that, like, you're speaking my language. And like, I live with someone who talks to me about this like every day. And sometimes I'm like, I just want to sleep. And he's like, really just talking about all the things on life. And just like, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys need to talk for like hours and hours.
I know.
But I just love it.
In heaven. It's so
really,
sweet.
I love it so much. It's so inspirational. It's a pick me up that people need to hear. It's been really freaking tough for people the last few years. And it just sounds like beautiful, beautiful work. And you guys are incredibly inspiring people. Thank you for sharing everything today on the podcast.
We're so appreciative. Thank you for bringing your baby here and for coming on and telling your gorgeous birth stories and story together and everything. You constantly inspire me, and I know so many others out there. So thank you for that. And we're so grateful that you were here. Thanks, guys. You guys have been listening to the Mother Days podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bye.
Bye-bye.